Hello, I'm Maureen Rogers from Laurel MD Playhouse, and this is Curtain Call. And today we have guests that are directors and actors that are involved with the newest show that we have starting March 24th, Consecrated Ground. What I'd like you all to do is introduce yourselves and tell us the part that you have, your position, what you're doing with Consecrated Ground.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline like Zoom, and I'm both the assistant director for Consecrated Ground, and I'm playing the part of Clarice Lyle.
And I'm Lorraine Brooks, and I'm the director of the play.
Great. So, Lorraine, the first thing I want to know from you is how this all started. And it goes back a few years, it only goes back a year with me, but you've had previous talks with people about the play.
I have. I'll tell you where it really began was when I was a teenager. Oddly enough, my mother was from Canada. And I remember her telling me back in the 1960s when I was a teenager, I remember my mother telling me when the civil rights movement was just getting started in this country, and we were having discussions. And I remember her saying, if you think racism is bad in the United States, go to Canada, it's even worse. And I remember her saying that from when I was a teenager. So fast forward, I'm no longer a teenager, and a friend of mine was telling me about this play that concerned a Black community in Canada. And so immediately I was interested because I remembered my mother telling me stories. So that's kind of where it started. I read the play. It really did resonate with me. And I thought, this is a conversation that we still need to have, unfortunately. That what my mother was experiencing, 60, 70 years ago is still happening today. And so that's what made me want to get involved in this particular play. It's a great story. It's got a great cast. But even apart from that, the subject matter, and it's very topical even now. Even right here in Baltimore, there's things happening that are reflected in what's happening in the play. So that's what got me started.
Absolutely. And what got you involved, Jackie?
So Lorraine contacted me about Consecrated Ground and told me that she would be interested in collaborating with me on the project. And so I read the play with her. We got on Zoom, we read it together, and the moment we were done, I said, this is incredible, and we have to make sure, we have to do this. This has to happen. This is a beautiful story it's a really, a project where everyone gets to shine. There are 7 characters, and everyone gets their moment in this show. And I love that. And I love a story that's so compelling and based on true story that no one knows. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, this will be probably the first time that it's been.
We think it is the first time it's been staged in the United States. We were doing some research online, and the only reviews or play reviews or book reviews that we saw originated in Canada. So I think this is the first time it's being performed in the United States.
And without spoiling anything, can you give us a little synopsis of the play?
So it's about a community in Nova Scotia called Africville that is a real community. And the play is about a fictional family that lived in Africville at a time when the Nova Scotian government had decided to condemn and then demolish the town. So these people are telling the story of how it's affecting their lives. The characters are fictional, but the events really did happen. And I think that's what makes it to me, so much more interesting and as Jackie said, compelling, because these are real events that happened. This is a real community that was destroyed. These are real people who had real lives. And, you're talking about why it resonated with me. But again, my mother, I remember her telling me these stories. And my mother's family, my mother was born in Toronto, so that's a big city, right? And her father was a physician. So they weren't, by no means were they poor, by no means were they uneducated, by no means did they live in a bad part of town. And even so, they experienced the same kinds of racism. And so I started thinking, wow, if my mother's family, who was by no means disadvantaged, felt the sting of racism to that degree, what must these people have felt? Who really didn't have very much, and who really were marginalized. And therein lies the tale, I think. That's the whole point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have said in our advertisements, it's a story that needs to be seen. It needs to be told. Jackie, can you tell us a little bit about your character?
Clarice Lyle is, she's a mother, firstly and foremostly. She's a new mother. She had her child late at life, and she married a man who's not from Africville, but she's very much proud and committed to Africville. Her house has been there for hundreds. The land actually belongs to her family, has been in their possession for hundreds of years. She's been there. Her whole family has lived there for generations, and she's the one who, out of everyone in Africville, absolutely does not want to leave. She will do anything in order to stay in Africville, and she's determined to fight for that right.
So how hard was it to step into those characters' shoes and play this part?
Not that difficult for me. I love a drama. I think is near and dear my heart, much more so than comedy. And I love being able to depict rawness and realness and being vulnerable, showing all the range of emotions that one can show, from joy all the way to anger. And yes, I relish being able to play these kinds of roles and show these kinds of feelings and emotions.
And Lorraine, you have somebody who is a consultant on this show. And tell us how you met them, got in contact with them, or they with you?
She's actually the person who introduced me to the play.
Okay.
And I didn't remember that until she reminded me a little while ago. I was just talking to her one day on the phone, and I said, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to be directing a play." And she said, "Well, what play is it?" And I said, "It's Consecrated Ground." She said, "Oh, yes, I remember us talking about it." And I thought, "Really?" And she said, "Yes, I'm the one who told you about it." So, so she was very happy to hear that I had chosen that play. She is a professor at Howard, and she taught a class in literature that included this particular play.
It's amazing.
So she knows all about the characters and the history and the playwright, and she's done a lot of research about it. So I invited her to be my technical director. So she's been giving us some insights into the history of Africville, into the playwright himself, the nuances of the characters. And I think she's been really very helpful to all the characters in, sort of setting up the backstory. As Jackie was saying, the motivation for the characters to be doing what they're doing and saying what they're saying.
Oh, and what an opportunity to have somebody like that assist you as a director.
Yes.
I mean, it's just amazing.
Yes, I'm very fortunate.
I want to hear what you've all done in the past, because you have done so much and have been involved in so much and have just amazing experiences. Jackie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. In terms of acting, I didn't start acting actually until my senior year of high school. And I really blossomed in undergrad, where I took some acting classes. I was not a theater major. I was a psychology and a modern language double major. But one of my professors had his own theater in Vancouver, British Columbia. And he took me aside to talk about careers and told me I should really think about becoming an actor. I did not follow his advice. He was also an attorney, and that's where my career was leading me, was to the law. But since I've been in the area, especially last year, I've done so much. I've been really blessed to work at both professional and community theaters all over the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. as mostly an actor, but also a director and assistant director. And I love it.
And she has too. She's been everywhere. I don't know how you have time to sleep.
Sleep? What is
Yeah.
sleep?
You've done a couple things at Laurel Mill Playhouse
Yes,
prior
I
to this,
have.
right?
Yes,
Vagina monologues.
exactly. And the done and done plays,
Right,
The
right,
Actor's Nightmare.
right.
Yes,
That was so much fun. That
it
was so much good. You're a great person to have on stage.
Thank you
So
so much.
we appreciate you so much. And Lorraine, what about you? I know you have done lots of things.
Well, that's only because I'm older than Jackie. That's the only reason I've done more things. So I, like you, had a cable television show in New York that was called Health Center, and I interviewed people concerning public health issues. So I have a little bit of a background there. When I moved to Maryland about 7 years ago, I had retired and moved at the same time, and I found that I didn't have anything to do. So I was looking for things to do, and a friend of mine said, "Why don't you look into some community theater?" So I did. That's how I met you. That's how I got involved with Laurel Mill. I met Jackie. We did vagina monologues together.
Mhm.
So that's how I met Jackie. I've done a few things at Laurel Mill, as you know. And this is my first time directing, though. So this is my first time on that side of things. And I don't have a part. I'm not in this play. So I'm going to say I'm just directing, but it's not at all just. I am learning so many different things, and it's been exciting and scary, and
Yeah.
and
But you know what? It's in you. I can tell you
thank
are
you.
organized, and I am sure you are great to work for as a director, and we're really honored to have you.
Thank you.
Um, so you've told us why people should come see this play, basically. How about you, Jackie? What's something I can tell people as to why they should come see this play?
I mean, if you are looking for an incredible story with intriguing people and with lots of drama as well as lots of joy and love, I mean, this is for you. This is about a community and about individuals as well and their stories and where they are heading in life. And I think it can resonate with anyone. Um, and so, yes, absolutely everybody needs to come see this show.
And doesn't the intimacy of Laurel Mill Playhouse, help with this play? You're just right there, just a few feet away.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely. You don't have to be at the Kennedy Center in the nosebleeds where
Right,
you
right.
can barely see people's expressions. You can see everything on our faces and all the details of the set. I mean,
Mhm. Which makes it more challenging, as a director, right? It makes it, I think, more challenging because people are going to be right there, and because it is so intimate that you will not only see them in detail, but you'll feel them in great detail. So, part of our challenge, and Jackie's been assisting me a lot, part of the challenge is to get the most from the actors so that the audience can really resonate, can really feel what you're feeling, or can feel what you're doing, what
Right.
you're trying to convey. So yes, I think the intimacy of Laurel Mill is both challenging, but also makes it so much more. I hate to keep using the word resonant, but that's what it is. It really resonates with everybody, I think. So, and we'd like to fill the theater, of course, because the better, the more people in the audience, the more emotion you can get out of the actors, and
Absolutely.
so it works both ways. So yes, so come see our play, please.
You all can help us do that. It starts March the 24th, runs almost 3 weekends, right?
Until April 8th.
Yeah. So I would definitely go to laurelmillplayhouse.org because we have some unusual times, like a Saturday has a.
We have a Saturday matinee at 3:00 on the
Yeah.
25th.
Yeah.
yes.
So that's
Mhm.
great for all of you who are maybe tied up with something else. And get your tickets online. It helps us, plan ahead, and then you won't be disappointed when we're filled up.
Right.
So it's laurelmillplayhouse.org. If you need to call the theater about something, you have a question about it, it's 301-617-9906. And thank you both for coming, being on Curtain Call. You've been delightful guests.
Thank you for having
And
us.
Yes,
you've been
thanks for having
delightful to
us.
work with too. So thank you. So we'll be returning in a few minutes with one of the actors from Consecrated Ground. So please stay tuned.
Cyberbullying is a very real thing, affecting over half of young adults online. It is generally done by bullies called trolls. These trolls will invade your privacy and ruin your social media experience. Here are some ways to prevent that. Set your privacy settings on all accounts. Only accept friends. Trolls are not your friends. Don't release any personal information. Block suspicious accounts. And tell a trusted adult. Use these tips to help keep you safe on social media. Don't get trolled, stay safe online, and stop cyberbullies.
Hi, I'm Maureen Rogers, and I'm back with Curtain Call. And we have an actor with us that is in Consecrated Ground, and we're so pleased to have him. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what part you're playing in Consecrated Ground?
Hi, my name is Martin Young, and I play the role of Jimmy Doublespeak Willis. Jimmy has a speech impediment in Consecrated Ground. And one of the things that drew me to Consecrated Ground is I'm from a small town myself in North Carolina where everyone knows everyone. And when I read the script for Consecrated Ground, I could tell this was a community in which everyone knew everyone. So that was one of the major attractions to the role for me.
That's great. And we went through some different hoops finding you. I had asked one person if he could do it, and they couldn't do it, but he said he would check with somebody else, and then they checked with somebody else, and finally it was you. And I heard we had never met, but I heard your voice on the phone. It was such a good voice. I said to Lorraine, "You have to call him. We have to call him. The voice, the voice."
Well, I certainly am thankful for the referral. It came from a friend of mine who's a very successful actor named Brad Eaton, who's done several plays. And he's like, hey, I need your email. I recommended you for this part. I think you would be really great. And I'm like, okay, I'd like to try a live stage play. I was going to try one a few years ago before COVID started. However, because of COVID, it turned into a virtual stage play. So this will be my actual first live stage play. And the cast and the crew has really taken me under their wings, and I've learned so much coming from film as opposed to a stage play. And I just thank everyone that has taken me in under their wings and showed me the ropes. And I'm really excited about this upcoming play, Consecrated Ground.
That's great. Now, what are the differences you found between film and acting live on stage?
Well, one of the major differences, whenever I get a script, I'll read the entire script, I'll isolate my parts, and I'm able to have a photographic memory of my parts only. However, in stage play, you have to know everyone's parts because you have blocking and you have a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. You have different settings that take place between each scene as opposed to one setting if you're in film. You have costume changes that occur. You have intermissions that take place as opposed to a film. Hey, you may be there on set going over one scene over and over and over. However, in a stage play, you're going over the entire play and in segments, and it's really helped me as an actor and has really helping me to go to another level as an actor.
Oh, that's great. So how was it getting into this character? Did you have any obstacles or things that worked for you from your film career?
Well, one thing that worked for me, I'm a first generational college student. I went to Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I majored in speech pathology. So I'm always trying to put an emphasis on speaking correctly, using the correct verbs and adjectives. So when I looked at this character, Jimmy Doublespeak, I'm like, Doublespeak? Why are they calling him Doublespeak? I found out he has a stuttering, he has a speech impediment. So as someone that has a degree in speech pathology, I found that very challenging and helpful since I have worked with many students who have had stuttering as a speech impediment. And so I had to distinguish between what's a disfluency and what's a stutter. Of course, if you have a stuttering impediment, that's constant. But if you have a disfluency, everyone has disfluencies. That's when we may get stuck in the middle of our speech where we say, while we're thinking of what to say next. But a stutterer, he has to use various strategies in order for him to be fluent, he or she to be fluent when they're speaking. So I found that to be helpful the more that I practice verbalizing the lines for this character. And so over a period of time, I've really been able to get into that character and really think the audience will be surprised at the ability to go into that character with that speech impediment. But my speech background really helped me with that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I did not know that at all. That was a perfect role to have. So, did you say that you worked in DC as a teacher?
Yes, and I recently retired from DC public schools after 35 years. The first 14 years, I taught special education. The last 21 years, I moved into administration and where I was a special education coordinator. And I really worked with various students over those years, made great friends. And after 35 years, I decided, hey, I'm going to let the young people take over this. And I want to go in now, do some of the things that I have deferred for many years. I'm also a writer. I write song lyrics. And acting was something that just appealed to me because back in the 90s, I used to do stand-up comedy as a hobby.
Is that right?
Yes, and I was fortunate enough during the time I was doing comedy to share the stage with the great Dave Chappelle and many other great comedians. But for me, it was just a hobby. I knew that I didn't have that type of talent, but as far as a hobby, I made it to a point to where I could hold my own in the field of comedy. And that really never left because I always would use humor with kids to diffuse situations. So when they would get upset, I would try to find something humorous. And I also took that over into acting between my scenes. I'm usually cracking jokes or I'm laughing about something or have everyone laughing about something I said that was humorous. And so I've really been able to incorporate all those things, the humor, the seriousness from being in the field of education. And so it's really helped me as an actor to play various characters. And over the past year, since I've retired, I've been in 9 independent films.
Oh my heavens!
Yes, and so it's really a joy for me when people trust me to have a part in their work. And the first thing I appeared in was a web series in 2017, which was directed by the great Selton Shaw, as I call him, of the Shaw Brothers. And I was dormant for a while in acting because I was contemplating retirement. So when I did decide to retire, I said, okay, I would like to jump out and try this acting again full time. And I've just been blessed to have so many projects to present themselves as I've gone along. And people have just, they've referred me for various things. And I've just been fortunate enough to land those roles and have been on some big projects. And when I got the call about Consecrated Ground, I got really excited when I pulled up the history of this and read about George Board, the writer of this. I'm like, this really happened? Because I had no knowledge that this story existed. And it just drew me in. And as I said, I'm just blessed to be a part of this wonderful cast.
Well, we're so glad to have you, and it sounds like you're into many, many things in your retirement, which is great. What would you say why a person should come see this show?
Well, if you want to know about the history of struggle, you should come see this show. It reminds me of a quote from Dr. King, where he spoke about an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. And this story is about a people who had land given to them by Queen Victoria in 1812. However, developers came along later and wanted this prime real estate. And in order to get this prime real estate, they built a dump beside of these people's homes. And of course, whenever you have a dump anywhere, it's going to attract rodents of all kinds. And it really made living conditions unbearable. And I don't want to spoil the ending for anyone, but I certainly, would encourage someone that's a fan of history and of injustice to come and see this film, because you're going to see the ups and downs of a small community that, stuck together, even though eventually the inevitable happened where the community is no longer, but their story still lives on.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on stage. I know it's going to be a really riveting show. And you all get your tickets
Yes,
at
please.
laurelmillplayhouse.org, so you can see all these fantastic people and see see what Lorraine Brooks has done with directing the show, as well as Jacqueline. Jacqueline is also in the show. So it's laurelmillplayhouse.org, starts March the 24th. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon on Curtain Call. As I mentioned before, Consecrated Ground runs for 3 weekends starting March the 24th, and you can check out our website, laurelmillplayhouse.org, for those dates and times. But on that Sunday, March the 26th, we have a Celtic festival. We have a Celtic music club. There's about 20 people, and we have Drew Vervin and Gary Rice. And it's all acoustical, and it is such good old-fashioned traditional Irish music. I know that you will enjoy it. So again, that is on Sunday, March the 26th at 2 p.m. It'll last for about 2 hours. Then we're going to go next door to Olive on Main and have a bit of refreshment. So please come join us. And those tickets also are on laurelmillplayhouse.org.